The president of the company passed away, and his funeral is the day after tomorrow. I received the sudden news 2 days ago from my boss at the head office, the same one who had relegated me. Needless to say, you must come to the funeral, he insisted, making sure I would attend. As expected, any employee would go to the funeral of the president of their company, but I was fed up with my boss's attitude as usual. Today, I left the suburban branch office where I had been relegated and arrived at the nearest train station to head to the funeral home. It looked like I would get there on time. As I was about to walk through the ticket gate, I saw a woman pushing a wheelchair, struggling at the ticket counter. She seemed to be seeking help from the station attendant, who appeared uncomfortable. Watching closely, I noticed the woman looked like a foreigner, and the girl in the wheelchair, probably of elementary school age, also looked foreign. I wondered if they were mother and daughter. Curious, I casually walked towards them. They were speaking Vietnamese. In fact, I had majored in Vietnamese as a second language in college. Even though it was my second foreign language, I had taken all the classes and even obtained a certificate. I also had experience working as a hall staff member at a Vietnamese restaurant, so thanks to a life surrounded by native Vietnamese speakers, my Vietnamese speaking ability was fairly good. With this background, I decided to talk to her in Vietnamese if she was in trouble. "Can I help you with something?" I asked. She looked surprised for a moment but immediately replied in Vietnamese, "Oh, can you speak Vietnamese?" I nodded, a little relieved that she understood. "Yes, I do. I studied at university. I can speak a little. I thought you might need some help." Her eyes lit up. "Thank you, you were so kind. Actually, I was having trouble figuring out how to buy a ticket. I tried to ask the station attendant, but he couldn't understand me at all. Since I can barely speak English, I didn't know what to do. Thank goodness there is a kind person like you. Could you please tell me how to buy a ticket?" "Oh, I see. That must have been hard. Of course, it's no problem. I'll show you at the ticket counter." I showed her how to buy the ticket, and we went through the ticket gate together. "Thank you so much. You were very helpful," they said, looking totally relieved. I was very glad that I could use what I'd learned to help others. No, not at all. "There's an elevator right there you can use," I said, pointing it out, but then realized, oh my, unfortunately, the elevator is out of order. "Oh dear, it looks like it's out of order," I noted. Hearing that, she became terribly upset. "Oh no, what am I going to do? I have something very important to do today." Her face, which had just brightened up, became gloomy again. I couldn't decide right away if I should carry the wheelchair up the stairs. Depending on the weight, it could take a long time, and I might not make it to the president's funeral in time. I thought about asking the station attendant for help by translating, but when I glanced at him, he was obviously avoiding eye contact with me. I didn't want to rely on those guys. Okay, I gotta do it, I thought. I didn't want to come this far and just abandon them. I made up my mind. "If you want, I can carry your wheelchair up the stairs. Can you carry your daughter on your back?" "Yes, I can. Thank you," she replied happily. She picked up her daughter from the wheelchair, and I folded it up and carried it. It was quite heavy. Was it made in a foreign country or domestically? I had never carried wheelchairs before in my life, so I couldn't compare. I managed to carry it up the stairs. "Are you all right?" she repeatedly asked, even though she was also carrying her child on her back. "I'm fine. I think she is heavier than the wheelchair, isn't she?" I pretended to be calm and climbed the stairs. "I'm fine. I'm used to carrying my daughter on my back," she smiled. We reached the landing in the middle of the stairs and decided to rest there. "I'm sorry it's too late to ask you, but weren't you on your way somewhere? I thought you might be in a hurry." Yes, actually I'm in kind of a hurry." For a moment, I remembered my boss's face and answered with a smile. She suddenly realized, "Oh no, don't worry about us, you just go ahead." She said that, but there was no way I was leaving them in the middle of the stairs like this. There was absolutely no way she could carry this heavy wheelchair up by herself. "No, it's okay. You're more important. Let me help you to the end," I insisted. I checked my watch. I could still make it to the funeral just in time. After a short break to regain some strength, I climbed the rest of the stairs, little by little. "Hang in there, mister. Thank you." Her daughter cheered me on. Finally, we made it to the top. "We made it. We made it," I exclaimed. "I'm so glad. Thank you so much for your help." Thank you," she said, and the three of us shared the joy of reaching the platform. At that moment, we heard an announcement from the station. "The train will be leaving soon." "Oh no, I reflexively tried to run to catch the train, but the doors closed and it left. Oh my God, I muttered. Without that train, I would miss the president's funeral and be late. I'm sorry, it's my fault you missed the train, she said, apologizing profusely. I didn't want to make them feel worse than they already did. It's going to be all right. I'll figure something out, I replied, smiling to reassure her. While waiting for the next train, I called my boss, but he didn't answer. He was probably busy. I was anxious and impatient, but also a little relieved. I put her daughter back in the wheelchair and finished my task. As we sat on the bench, I decided to ask the question that had been on my mind. Do you two live here? Actually, got married and just moved here, but things have been a bit. She trailed off, not wanting to elaborate. It's okay, you don't have to talk if you don't want to. I'm sorry for asking a private question. I quickly apologized. In the meantime, time was passing. The next train was in 15 minutes. I looked at the timetable and sighed involuntarily. The thought of my boss being angry with me again was depressing, partly because I would be late for the president's funeral, but also because I didn't want to see him after a while. Is it possible that there's something else bothering you besides being late? She asked, startling me with her insight. Normally, I wouldn't talk to a stranger about my private life, but I felt less tense and decided to speak little by little. Actually, I had an irrational thing happen to me at work, and I was transferred to a branch office near here. I had a stable job at the head office, I said. I'm sorry, that's very sad, she replied. I know this is not the kind of thing to tell someone you just met, but my boss puts all the blame on me, and that's how I ended up where I am now. Today, I have to face that boss, and that's why I was feeling a little depressed, I continued. I'm sorry to tell you this story that you may not want to hear, but I haven't had anyone to talk to about it until now. It's okay, you saved us. Let me at least listen to your story, she said with a sympathetic smile. I'm kind of embarrassed. I've never complained about work to anyone before, I admitted. I found myself talking about something I had been holding inside for a long time. I guess I wanted someone to listen. I was surprised that I couldn't stop talking. My boss didn't like me, so he intentionally did wrong things and put all the blame on me. He deliberately pissed off the president, telling him that I was to blame, so I was relegated to the suburban office. I was just about to build my career at the head office, I explained. I see. Thank you for telling me what you're going through. I wish I could help you, but sorry, I can't do anything, she mumbled sadly. No, don't worry, just think of it as one office worker's rant. I feel better just talking to someone, I said. I felt bad that I had burdened her. Trying to change the subject to something more cheerful, I said, actually, I have a dream. I want to make frozen foods for foreigners. Something authentic, something that would remind them of their homeland while living in this country. But that's not possible at the branch office where I am now. Food development can only be done at the head office. That's why I want to go back to the head office someday and make my dream come true. That's wonderful, that's wonderful. I'll support your dream, she said. While we were talking, the train arrived. I helped them get on, and coincidentally, we got off at the same station 2 stops away. Thank you for listening to my story. Now, excuse me, but I must hurry, I said, rushing towards the ticket gates. Thank you very much, thank you. They waved their hands and thanked me in English. When I arrived at the site, the funeral was nearly over. My boss was glaring at me while the priest was praying. I had messed up. My head hurt just thinking about what would happen next. I was trembling during the entire ceremony. Right after the ceremony ended and the coffin was placed in the hearse, my boss approached me. Hey, I have something to tell you. I need to talk to you. Yes, I replied. He took me to a private room, and the moment the door closed, he started yelling at me. Who do you think you are, you blinking fool? What are you doing showing up late for the president's funeral? I'm sorry. I was helping some foreigners at the train station, and I got delayed. I tried to explain. Helping people and foreigners is none of your business. Just leave such foreigners alone. He yelled so loudly that people outside the room could hear. The managing director and other employees rushed to the scene. What's going on here? The managing director asked. I thought it was inappropriate for him to be late for a funeral, so I scolded him, my boss said. I see. Being late is not good. So why were you late? The managing director asked me. Well, he said he was helping a foreigner, and I told him to leave that kind of thing alone. My boss interrupted. Just then, a young man who had been listening at the back of the crowd stepped forward. Wait a minute. What did you just say? The boss glared at the resolute young man. What is it suddenly? Excuse me, who are you? I am the son of the president of this company. It was my father's funeral today. I haven't been back in Japan for a long time, so you probably don't know who I am yet. I have decided to take over the company, he announced. Everyone looked surprised at the same time. I heard you speaking very loudly, so I had to listen to what you were saying. You seem to be blaming him for helping foreigners. I don't think that's a good thing. No, that's not what I meant. I was just warning him about being late for the funeral. My boss started to panic. I don't agree with blaming him because my wife is Vietnamese and she was saved by him, the president's son said, bringing forward the Vietnamese woman I had just met at the station. I was utterly shocked. I did not expect that she was the president's daughter-in-law. Our daughter has trouble with her legs, so she is in a wheelchair. When the two of them tried to take the train today, they didn't know how to buy a ticket. They tried to ask the station attendant but couldn't communicate because she can't speak English well. When they were both at a complete loss, he, who speaks Vietnamese, helped them buy a ticket. In addition, he willingly carried the wheelchair up the long stairs. He even helped them get on the train, even though he was in a hurry. That's what my wife told me. My wife, my daughter, and I are very grateful to him. It is outrageous to scold him for that, he said firmly. My boss shuddered. No, I didn't know that. I'm sorry, he stammered. The atmosphere was tense, but I felt a sense of relief knowing that my actions were understood and appreciated by someone who mattered. The next president was furious. Not only were you very rude to foreigners, but you also have the nerve to show up late for the funeral. Our company is planning to make more products for the international market. It's troubling to have people like you here. I don't think our company needs you. Oh no, please don't say that, my boss pleaded desperately. But no matter how much he begged, it didn't make any difference. I heard that you even cheated and blamed him, then kicked him out of the head office. You were fired. This can't be happening, my boss stammered, unable to accept what just happened. The next president gave my boss a cold look as he shook, then turned to me with kindness. Thank you for saving my wife and daughter. I was supposed to drive them here, but I had to leave early, so they had to take the train. My wife also told me why you were moved to the branch office. I can't allow such things to happen. When I become president, I will make sure the company values its employees' true abilities. He spoke passionately, then added, by the way, I heard you speak Vietnamese. If you're willing, I'd like you to develop food products for foreigners at the head office. I was extremely surprised. Are you sure? Of course I'm sure. We need talented people like you to develop our products. A dream I had almost given up on was coming true. I was so happy and surprised that I found myself in tears. When the new president took over, I returned to the head office, where I had longed to work. I was finally able to focus on developing food products for foreigners. We created authentic bibimbap for Koreans, hot pot sets for Chinese, and koshari for Egyptians, among others. There were many failures at first, such as difficulties in properly defrosting large products. However, through the team's concerted efforts and repeated trial and error, we successfully commercialized the products. Once we started selling, the products became big hits, one after another. Our company's sales steadily rose. I'm so glad we entrusted you with this project, the president said, very pleased. Recognized for my achievements, I was promoted. Since that incident, I had become good friends with the president's wife and daughter, and they often took me out to dinner. I met her friend at a gathering later, and eventually, I married her. She was also Vietnamese, making ours an international marriage. Looking back, it felt like a strange twist of fate, but I was glad I took the plunge back then. Holding my baby, I resolved to do my best to make my wife and child happy. That is why I continue to work hard on product development. You're the candidate for the next president, the president once said at a company party, quite drunk. I knew he was joking, but those words made me happy. No one else had ever been told anything similar, so I wondered if it was somehow special. I hope so, and I'm secretly encouraged by it. For the sake of the president who cares about me, and for the company, I want to continue making products that will be loved by many people.